for high refresh rate screens, and also maybe 8K mobile phone screen. I'm joking a little bit, but QR codes. The reason why QR codes are cool is because not all browsers have direct access to your NFC antenna in an ideal world. But not all browsers are going to have an NFC antenna connected directly to it. Just ask for permission to use the NFC antenna. Only this time while using this app. Whatever. But any browser can display a QR code. It could also display a QR code movie that would look like static, unless you have a really high resolution camera pointed directly at it, filming it. So now the frame rate of the camera is also a point of competition. Can we get 1,000,000 frame rates? What is the maximum frame rate physically possible for a camera? And how do we achieve that? What is the minimum increment of time in the universe? And can we shoot movies of QR codes at that frame rate? But now we also need to upgrade the refresh rate of your display. Now, oh my God, if you have 240 hertz, you can transfer a lot of data in a minute or in a second. You can transfer a lot of data if you have a 240 hertz refresh rate on your high-res QR code data transfer. Maybe we want to have a 480 hertz refresh rate. Oh my God. What is the maximum refresh rate possible? Again, what is the minimum increment of time in this universe? Oh, well, you know, the chips. I was just watching a documentary about some bullshit. Anyway, some fake Russian bitch that I grew up with, but now she's pretending to be Russian. Anyway, whatever. Optical circuits. I realized there is a technology called liquid crystal display. You have a light, and if you apply current to the liquid crystals, they become opaque. If you change the current, they become transparent, or mostly transparent. So now basically the way that an optical circuit could work is just it's an on-off gate, but by default it's on. There's always light going into the circuit, but sometimes it's cut off, and you can split light with a prism, make it go into two liquid crystals. And now you can run chips at 100 gigahertz. 100 gigahertz. Can we get 100 gigahertz refresh rate on our displays? And 100 gigahertz frames per second on our cameras. 100 giga frames per second. Yeah, anyway, so yeah, it was interesting. It's just, yeah, I think electrical circuits by default are off. And you apply current to jump a gate to make it on. The way that an optical circuit works is the light's always on, and you apply a current to turn it off. Brilliant. That's genius. Wow. Wish I thought of that. Maybe I did. I was talking about using a display, a liquid crystal display as a circuit. I didn't. Some very smart person was inspired by that, maybe. It's possible. I didn't design the circuit. I saw it and I was, yeah, oh yeah, I remember that. You could use that technology to make a circuit. Make a chip out of your screen. Oh, you could make a chip out of your screen. When your phone's charging. When your phone's charging. There's just a bunch of fucking static on the screen. Possibly with some advances we could have a rainbow static. But your screen would generally look gray, I guess. If you blend all the colors at random. I don't know what you had. No, I think it would be white-ish, off-white. I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, QR codes. Right now, I think I forget what it is. I think you can fit a megabyte inside a QR code, but I could be mistaken. Maybe it's only a kilobyte. Again, if you're filming a browser's display, if your camera can do 4K, you know, you can you could scan a megabyte per second at least. 30 frames per second, even if it's a shitty old browser display. A fucking CRT. If you film a CRT display, in 4K, you can probably get a megabyte per second of it. And again, you have to tweak the resolution of your QR code. You want to be right up to it with a 4K camera. It'd be very difficult. You know, you could snipe the display from a side angle. You're not gonna be shooting right now anyway. Well, again, we need to upgrade the resolution of the QR codes, but and the cameras. Yeah. It would be possible to snipe it from the side and scan what you're scanning. It would be possible to do that. It's not quite as secure as NFC. You gotta be careful. Maybe you put your phone as close as possible to the QR code so that it's very difficult to snipe it from the side. Maybe you wear a cape. You pull in Edward Snowden. He did that. He had this hood that he put over his head when he was typing his password into his keyboard because he was concerned that there might be cameras in his hotel room. You could wear a cape with a hood. And when you meet someone and you want to exchange QR codes, you flip your hood over their heads. You create a private little cape skirt. A temporary little tent. Ideally, all browsers would be able to access your NFC radio. That would be a neat feature. Maybe a little bit more secure, a little bit more convenient than the QR code. But as a backup method, just in case you ever need to scan data out of a computer, the CRT display and your 4K video camera might be the fastest way to do it. You could write a program What is the killer app for this technology? Well, extracting data from shitty fucking legacy government systems. Some air-gapped fucking system. You write a program to transfer data out of the display with your camera. A camera. You just, if you can get a camera anywhere near that screen, you can suck data out of that computer. That's what that's for. That's why. That's why QR codes. Um, yeah, so NFC is a little bit more secure. NFC is a little bit more secure. But again, not universally accessible. Definitely better if your browser, if any browser competing in the browser space can ask the OS to use the NFC radio. That's cool. But as an app developer who just wants the app to load in any WebAssembly compliant browser, it's just the whole fucking program runs in a browser tab. QR code's the way to go. But if at some point in the future the browser had access to NFC, well, now you can do the company that made your browser can build in a payment gateway where you put in your credit card details and then it can generate whatever new credit card numbers for each transaction. It can anonymize. You gotta be a little more careful with your data on Web3. I went to sleep, couldn't sleep. I smoked some weed. I drank some crack. I think I'm gonna go back to bed.